Do you know, I found I've lent books to people. Mostly what happens is, they give it back to me, no effect at all. Unbelievable. But the ones that do, it's like a hammer.
Yeah.
With me, it was like a hammer. The first book I found was 30 something years ago, and I was dabbling in Eastern philosophy. That's
Right.
the fact. Yeah,
Right.
I wasn't searching, but I was dabbling in Eastern philosophy, especially Buddhism, and I find Buddhism, a lot of the stuff very similar, although we don't really know what the Buddha said 2,500 years ago, but I find a lot of things very, Zen especially, Zen. But when I found Krishnamurti, it was like a hammer. Yeah. And this is what happened like with you.
A hammer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like somebody hit me on the head with a hammer. And this is what I said, it was like
Yeah.
it either gets you this way, or it has no. I don't think you can grow into Krishnamurti.
No.
It hits you.
It's a direct hit.
It's unbelievable.
It's the same with me. I was about 20 years of age. You don't need to tell this.
No, it's fun.
Anyway, and I was into Hindu stuff and a little bit of Buddhism.
Vivekananda and so on, right?
Yes. And suddenly I went to a library. I was on my way to a football match. It was Saturday. Okay, and I got this book accidentally. I thought Krishnamurti has something to do with Krishna movement.
Right.
Because I was into that too. Right. And suddenly, I went to the football match. I opened the book. It was The Flight of the Eagle.
Right.
And I didn't watch the. I don't remember the game. I finished the book before the end of the game. And from that moment on, it was like nothing existed.
Was it in English?
At that time, it was Greek. The book I bought, but later on, I think they had 7 or 8 books translated in Greek only. After I read all of them in less than a month, I thought I had to read more of this guy, and I started reading him in English. And ever since, I only read in English.
I think it's better to read him in English.
Yeah.
I was fixing my books up, cleaning my library, and I found a book by Pilavios, what's his name, Pilavios, when he Krishnamurti visited Greece supposedly.
Yeah.
Pilavios has got a problem.
Yeah,
No, he's got a massive problem.
He has his own view.
No, he thinks he nearly made Krishnamurti into a Greek.
Nearly.
There's a story about something similar to this that I heard in Brockwood or somewhere, that some Greek translator was translating some text of
Thank you.
of
It's called that.
Krishnamurti, and he translated except the Greek
No,
Orthodox.
it's this guy. It's this guy.
It's this guy. You see,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh no, actually the
I
book.
think it's made into something holy, because through that gives him status.
But don't you think that's the story of mankind?
Of course it is.
This is something we've done for
100%,
thousands of years, or
It's the story of mankind. Even us that we talk now, every now and then I talk because with gigs I meet a lot. Every now and then we caught ourselves being conditioned in so many other ways. It goes so deep into our genes,
yeah,
and we don't even know it sometimes.
right, into the
So
lower
what
parts.
is more important, what we learned through Krishnamurti teaching, is that it's more important to be aware that you are not aware, and then you are aware.
You mentioned the Buddha earlier, that we don't even know what he really said. I
No,
think you mentioned it, or you mentioned it. I was watching a documentary recently about the Tibetan monks who go into faraway distances into these monasteries and they meditate. These are places you can't get by car, obviously. So then some reporters went there with special permission. They hiked for days and found their way there. And they interviewed these guys who spend hours a day in these boxes meditating, Buddhist monks, Tibetan. What shocked me was that first of all, they looked awful. They didn't look happy, they looked confused and everything.
Of course.
And with desire, you know. But the interesting thing was that they were saying that they find it very difficult to control the mind. These are guys who are doing it 15 hours a day, you know. So
Well, control wouldn't come into the story.
No.
right. So what I was thinking was that maybe what Buddha had in mind is not this at all.
No,
And it's just
I
been
doubt that
completely
very much.
changed and
I question that very much, that Buddha talked that way.
No, we don't know.
No, we don't know, but through his
You
words,
see all
let's
those books
say,
there, Reza? All these here. from here to here, from here down here, and the back, all those years, Buddhism. You know? Well, I mean, the rest are Hindu, then into mysticism. Okay, the rest is arts. Arts. But what I'm trying to say is, the Buddha, the discussion, you find on the internet people who are discussing Buddhism and Krishnamurti, aren't they? You find
There's similarities, yes. That's
Yeah, many
also
Why?
I started.
Why
It was
should?
through ancient. It was
Yeah, but why should
Eastern
I?
philosophy,
Yeah.
Zen.
There are similarities, but at the end of the day, why compare?
Exactly.
Oh no, there's no
There
comparison.
is no,
I mean, there
but
is,
they do. They compare, which is better. You say the same as the
there's
Buddha
also
said.
one
You see,
type
when
of
you
philosophy
compare
which
one
they
philosophy-
say that Krishnamurti took it and made his own philosophy.
Yeah, I know the
Biso,
story.
Biso.
What's the name of the?
I forget his name, but I know
What was it?
Bisiya, something. Some Eastern philosophy, Indian.
Even the same, the Vedas, they say the same. Vedanta say
Yeah,
the same
Vedanta,
things, but
Vedanta, something like that.
at the end of the day, does it matter?
It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter.
No,
The
of
tree
course
is
it
a
doesn't
tree. It doesn't matter who says. I'm pointing
Yeah.
to the direction of the tree. It's not my tree.
And Krishnamurti never claimed to be original in a way.
No.
I mean, I think he even said that these things have been said before, and they have been, some of it. Maybe not so clearly though. I was reading Rumi today.
Socrates said some.
Yeah. I was reading Rumi today on the airplane, some very nice quotes, and I found out that some of this is Krishnamurti, but in his days he was under so much political pressure that he couldn't say things straightforward.
Rumi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But K, and also because of the modern language and so on. Anyway, I find K to be maybe a lot of things have been said before, but he puts it in a modern language and crystal clear.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
This is
what
what I
you
find
said,
as well.
crystal
It
clear.
is for today and crystal clear. He takes the small little detailed problems we have. Whereas when I read the Buddha, it's more philosophical in a way. Krishnamurti goes down, look at yourself, see the madness.
And also, one must remember that the Buddha or anybody else, the audience they had to deal with was a different kind of audience.
And the time.
And the time and the language.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that the language then was more sufficient than today. Even though some, let's say the word meditation, it's supposed not to translate the whole content of what they meant back then. That is why Krishnamurti, when he talked about meditation, he puts it in a very different context.
But also, I agree with you, and I think the time is very important because K, for example, saw what's happening with other things, other movements, and so on, and what people are falling for. He saw Rajneesh, he saw the Maharishi, and he saw the wars, he saw the two world wars. Hegel talks about the spirit of time, Zeitgeist.
You've been reading it now for a few years, haven't you?
Pardon?
You've been studying him for a few years.
Yeah, I saw him actually about 15 times. The last,
fantastic.
last 3 years of his life. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, did you find all these years you've been reading him or listening to him, something he said that doesn't ring true?
Well,
That's what important to find out. I couldn't really find. Okay, if you go into some deep stuff like beauty, let's say he takes things out of beauty, or he might talk about it, I might find a little bit of difficulty in certain things. But the basic, the truth, I can't find a thing that is not true.
No, we
Can you,
question Krishnamurti day and night. Day
It
and night.
tells you to question them and see how they work in your life, because
To see, to see it.
and decide
It's
for
not a matter
yourself.
of
You know,
belief,
not
is
to
it?
take him as an authority.
No.
That was
That
one
becomes
of his
belief.
concerns.
Yeah, that becomes
Yeah.
belief.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is that I don't believe anything Krishnamurti says. I think you understand that.
Actually, there's nothing to believe. It doesn't give you anything to believe.
So I see, there were, for a while they were talking about what should we call this, and at the end of these deliberations they decided to call it the teachings, and now we're ended up with this thing called the teachings. But I think that's also dynamic. We can change it. So for me, I pretty much changed the name. I don't call it the teachings. I call them pointers and challenges.
Many people call them like this. because they are not teaching. Teaching implies steady regulations. Or something, I don't know.
No,
That's
he
how
used the word teachings.
And he used
He said,
it,
if you
but-
live the teachings, for example.
Yeah, he used it.
Somebody maybe, he said, towards the end of his life. He
Yeah,
said,
but
if you
it's
read the
more for us.
I don't want you to get caught up in
No,
certain words.
Yeah, because they weren't sure either. They were talking about how should we refer to it, you know, and maybe some.
I remember when they were trying to find a name for Brockwood
Mm-hmm.
in England. What we're going to call the place, we're going to call it this, the adult centre, we're going to this. And they ended up just calling it the K Centre. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we've got to relax a bit as well.
Yeah.
Don't get hung up with.
How did you get exposed to Krishnamurti's work,
It was
Nicholas?
around 2007. A book, actually a video of. First, I saw a video of Krishnamurti on YouTube. Back then, it was internet booming. And actually, the first book I read was also The Flight of the Ego. So the ego flew.
Yeah, it hits you and that's it.
Yeah, I think.
Can't stop.
And I realized that a lot of things that he talked about were things that I was already concerned and already had some awareness of how the world worked, but I couldn't put it in the right context. That's how something that Krishnamurti.
Had you gone down that road of Eastern philosophy in any way? No?
Sneezing.
Miga, exo. Exo. Miga. Exo.
I did
This.
start, when you're not satisfied with your life and something is wrong, and then you start seeking. And yeah, I did start from Eastern philosophy, which was more, let's say, attractive. And then in the way I discovered Krishnamurti. So I never went deep in any philosophy because I studied it, I read some things, I read about Buddhism, okay? And I went into websites and, I read a lot of words that had no meaning. They were, too complicated for me, so I went to something else, more simple. Until I found Krishnamurti, which was the most simple, easy way things I could read and understand what he meant. But there's a lot of people who kind of
Find it
understand what he
difficult,
means.
yeah.
People, they don't understand it. They think he's the most unpractical philosopher, they call him.
I gave the book to one of my cousins, quite a few years ago. I said, have a look at this. And he gave it back to me about a week later. He said to me, all he does is ask questions. Tell you what to do.
With no answers. Because people are seeking for answers. They're
Exactly.
looking for the easy way out.
People need someone to tell them
Crutches.
what to do,
Yeah.
because when someone tells you what to do, you feel safe.
Yeah.
And if you believe that person for some reason, because it gives you security, psychological security, then you follow the path. And you have the sense that you are coming somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you a certain sense of security. But Krishnamurti takes all that away.
Right.
That is why you cannot call them either teachings or anything else. So it leaves you alone. It forces you to be alone. And when you are alone, you need to think. And people, they don't like to think, because when you think, you watch out
So
yourself.
they have a problem there, sorry.
So,
Because you're using the word thought.
yeah, I know, but
And when you say
we
Krishnamurti,
need-
thought is the problem.
yeah, and we
So-
need to communicate. I'm just using words. I know what you mean. Thought is the ego who's thinking. When we go deeper, of course, there's nobody to think. But
Yeah,
the
but
point is that
he's
Krishnamurti-
joking, right?
Yeah, of course, he's
Linguistic
joking.
twist.
Linguistic.
Right.
I know. I know him for more than 30 years now.
Okay.
And we met in meetings about Krishnamurti. I'm 57. I started at 18.
Wow, you look much younger.
So
Also, people are, generally, a lot of people are lazy and they like somebody else to do the work for them. When you're talking Eastern philosophy, that's one of the bases of Eastern philosophy, is that your guru does the work for you.
Yes.
But Krishnamurti says, hey, I'm not your guru, And as you remember from the Order of the Star of the East, from the Theosophical days, people were extremely disappointed when he dissolved it because they expected him to do the work for him. He says, hey, you're on your own.
Don't you think basically all boils down to Krishnamurti, all boils down to two words, choiceless awareness. For me, that is the meditation. Like we're sitting here now, and we're talking. Am I trying to show that I know Krishnamurti better than you? Watch. Give you an example. Watch. Am I trying to show I know this, or huh? this choiceless awareness, to know yourself. I don't know. I feel that there is the
you need to be aware of
the crux.
You need to be aware, and to be aware means to have no choice. If you have choice, it means you are not free. And awareness is freedom from any kind of choice. In total freedom, there is no choice at all. And this is what people don't understand. People are so...
I would explain it a little bit differently.
No, I will start from the physical freedom. Psychological, there is no such thing as freedom, do what you want. Your action is based on what you see. I see a kid suffering, I give him to eat. You need to have no morality. But people, they don't understand this. How can I be moral if I have no morality? But morality means set of regulations. If I follow regulations, then I don't meet you at all. This awareness means to be aware of what is going on inside me and outside without any choice. That's it.
What do you mean by choice?
Choosing.
By choice,
Choosing.
Choosing.
Without choosing.
If I
Without
choose,
interfering.
Interfering, of course. If psychologically I'm some nationalistic, then I choose. I choose my friends based on my memories, based on whatever. But if I have no nationality, then there's nothing to choose.
No. When you say, no, I don't see it that way, sorry. I don't see it. I see choiceless awareness as being aware every action I make. Not if I'm a Greek, if I'm a Turk,
Yeah, but you see,
if I'm any of these. No. Just being aware. You don't name.
You don't name.
Not just being aware.
That's a nationalistic, and that brings division. It brings an end to it. But you have to see.
Well, it doesn't seem to work.
No, not for the rest of mankind, unfortunately. But
Because people are not even aware of these things.
Of course, they are not. That's why
They're taught in school. I was reading somewhere today that.
Or they know it and they're using it.
Well,
they
they're
don't
educated.
Manipulating.
They don't
know the
manipulating because
I don't know,
For their own
but the
interest.
populace, they go to school learning in Palestine. They go to school learning that Israelis are bad and vice versa. You know,
All over the world.
all the world is like this. This tribal thinking.
Look at here. The Greek and the Turk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small little island. You can spit from one end to the other side, we say. Huh?
yes.
And we're divided. And
Right.
it's just absolute tragedy.
Right. And
Because of the conditioning. From the childhood, I tell people, look, give me your child, give the Turkish child his age, and in a year I can make him a fanatic Greek. This is a fact. This is what's happening to us. And we live like this. We're crazy. No, we are crazy.
that's true.
We are crazy.
Absolutely.
This is the tragedy.
It's a crazy world.
This is unfortunately based on our evolution. This is how we evolved. This is how we came to this point. To come and say that, seeing this is madness. We evolved with the violence.
Nicola, when you see,
I'm not saying it's good or bad.
No,
It's there.
when you
The
see
violence is
that
in
you're
us,
conditioned, that is a massive insight.
Yeah, but
And
you have to.
seeing is the ending, as Reza says. The seeing it should, but it doesn't.
Well, wait a minute. But also, I mean, when we were talking about Krishnamurti, he has some very interesting insights to share. He says that he points out the fact, actually, it's not that because he says it, but it is so because I've seen it myself firsthand, that thinking is divisive. Thinking is a tool which, if you don't use it in the right place, which was meant for, it creates problems, like trying to brush your teeth with a hairbrush. And this thing with it being divisive is the root cause of the Turkish versus Greek and so on, because of identification and the self and all of these things, which goes to the very root of it. So whether it works or not, of course it does. I mean, in my own life, it's made a huge difference, some of these insights and challenges. But the problem for the masses is education, which is still overemphasizing thought.
Because we are brainwashed to be this or that since early stage of our lives. We are brainwashed to be nationalistic, religious dogmas, and the rest of our psychological cultures. If you take all that away, what you have is free people. As long as they manipulate us through education, and you become whatever you become. Krishnamurti comes and show you all this.
But I'm not so sure that there is a they, because
No, there is
they
no
are
they.
probably conditioned themselves.
Of course, they are conditioned. Quite simple if you see it, but you need to see it. But it's quite very difficult to see it. It's very subtle. Because if you tell someone you need to stop speak Greek or English or whatever, then what the first reaction?
I'm nothing.
I'm nothing.
Mhm.
But if you take that away, because that is conflict and waste of energy, if you take that away, you have all the energy to go into life. Are we done?
The question for me also is, you first see it and then you do it, or you do it and then, I mean...
There's no seeing and doing.
But
There's no seeing and doing.
seeing is doing.
No. When you see a snake, you don't think to avoid it, you avoid it.
The
When-
perception is the action.
Yeah, perception is the action.
Exactly, and this is what people are so confused and they cannot overdo it, because they don't, maybe they see the danger, but they don't perceive it as
It's very
an enemy, as something dangerous, as a snake. You see, because psychological danger and physical danger, they don't. It's separate.
Yeah.
You see the snake, you don't go on the snake. You see nationalism, and you see, oh, I'm going to study it and see. if
You
it
don't
works.
associate nationalism as being danger like the snake.
Yeah, exactly.
No, nationalism is born.
Even though we have already two world wars.
Nationalism is born from security.
Yeah, it's supposed to
Born
be
from
secure
there.
if you belong to a team.
Going back to tribal people.
Yes.
Yeah, but we already had two world wars, which were based on nationalism.
Yeah, but instead
To
of
To the extreme, and we
Yeah.
still haven't seen.
No.
we have
I mean,
more
the
nations
conditioning
now
is
than
so-
ever before. The
Yes.
fragmentation of the planet is even more. So we didn't. Actually, there's nothing to learn psychologically. Because what is there to learn when you fight a war? What are you learning?
Yeah, but
But there is something to learn. But maybe during we cannot
think-
expect that because they went through a war, they learned something.
No.
You know what I mean?
no,
I think that's what
seems
you're
to
saying.
happen- What seems to happen, they have a war, and because of the war, the nationalism becomes stronger.
Yeah.
They hate the enemy even more after the war. So it doesn't get rid of nationalism.
not only education, because I was born by secret parents, but I was born in South Africa,
Yeah, like,
and it was back then when with apartheid. I mean, apartheid is one of the most
Destructive,
destructive
stupid things.
separations
Yeah.
in human history. And you could see there were schools with white people and schools with black people, and I was considered white people because of my skin. You know, they weren't concerned about my nationality, but they were okay with my skin. So I was, I was in the favored part, let's say. And you could see how white people treated black people. And I remember a phrase or a word that they used a lot, and it was in the peak of apartheid. They used to call black people kafirs. And I thought that kafir came from the word coffee, brown, black. But then when I heard the word and I found it in the book, in the lexicon, in a dictionary, it means ignorant.
Is that what it means?
Ignorant. So
Is that Dutch?
it put me in the thought that how could the white people calling the black ignorant? So who was ignorant?
Yeah.
It's
Who was the
amazing.
ignorant one? That's a good point.
Sussing it out.
Yeah, very good.
Raised in an area which was very peaceful. There wasn't the separation wasn't so obvious, but still there was separation.
Couldn't sit on the same bench.
But again, you could sit there. It wasn't in the big towns and so I think there's a lot of factors that help someone to come to think for his own self. So it's the environment he grows up,
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I said you have to start.
Seen things we've never seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they touch
that kind of society we haven't seen.
Yeah, they touch him, but millions, they didn't.
But there were still separation here in Cyprus, right?
Exactly. Let's say, for instance, if you take away, suddenly tomorrow we wake up and there is no religious division. We forget we had amnesia.
I think people will
There
go
is
crazy.
no religious division. There is no national division. There is no cultural division. Then there is no reason to fight each other.
I think they will go crazy by themselves.
Or there's appreciation of
Yes.
cultural difference.
No,
Oh,
I
you're-
think appreciation is still very dangerous because who is going to appreciate this or that? If you
Depends what you mean by culture. Because
Yes,
culture
if
means
you,
growth.
Yeah, if you speak about aesthetics, and pottery, yes, and science, yes.
Right.
But we speak about psychological culture, which brings about conflict. If you are a Greek, that's a psychological culture. It's not a culture. Okay, if you are coming from the place called Greece or Cyprus, you have certain food culture. But that's nobody fights over food.
Well, that's what he means. That's what he means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
still,
good to
you're going
play.
to grow and learn Greek.
Of course.
It's not like you're going to take the language away,
No.
But you see,
your heritage away.
No.
It's-
This is let's say the mechanical heritage of life.
But don't
You need to- Yes.
attached to that.
Yeah.
Why should
Let's
I
say
be attached to
even the language, we need to go beyond it because if he speaks Iranian, I speak Greek, and you speak English, then there is no communication. You have to overcome that. Sooner or later, we need to speak one language, either we like it or not.
Well, that's a bit idealistic, isn't it?
Yeah, why is it idealistic? We're sitting here for people.
So we are all no. Sooner or later is now. We're
Yes.
already speaking the same language.
See, we're already speaking the same language.
Yeah. But we don't need that in order to have peace in the world. I think the idea of peace in the world is a really big idea. A lot of groups go around talking about peace on earth who are actually living contradictory
conditioned.
lives
People as
themselves.
well. Yeah.
Even when they speak about peace, they speak peace
in their group.
in their group.
Yeah.
Because you belong in our group.
Right.
Yes. And then my group,
You're
like
safe.
your group.
Exactly.
You can say when you have peace.
So if you, when you say Krishnamurti freedom, what is the person to be free from? What is freedom?
Well, can we just, there's a couple of items, can we just put that on hold for a moment? Just one thing about what Nicholas said. I agree with you that it's true. It doesn't have to start from childhood. Because you can have a teenager, you can have a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old who can actually realize that, oh, wait a minute, my thinking is bringing division in this relationship. Forget about the bigger world. In this relationship with my employee, with my employer, and with my wife and so on, that when my thinking kicks into areas where it doesn't belong, it wreaks havoc. It brings division. So, of course, this can happen at any age.
In addition to think this or that, to separate people into categories, I'll tell you a short story, and from this story you went to realize,
Reza.
how people, I have 3 cats. The one is extremely beautiful, big, hairy, orange cat. Everybody who used to come to my house, wow, what a beautiful cat. And there were these 2 couples, friends of mine, they came for the first time, and they fell in love with the cat. They asked me, is he thoroughbred? I said, yes, he's coming from Ankara. Ankara is a city in Turkey.
Sure.
And this breed comes originally from that area. Their attitude changed to the cat.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Because the cat originated. You see, you're laughing.
That's sad. No, I'm
That's
laughing,
not
but
what
I
we-
should cry.
You should cry because we consider a tree is a Turkish tree. It comes from the forest in Turkey. This is Turkish food. And then we divide ourselves actually. And therefore the world, because we are the world. This is what K means. When he says you are the world, this is what he means. You divide yourself and then you project that division and you spread the ring about the division.
But I'm an optimist, and just the fact that we're sitting here and talking about it, and just the fact that you guys think about this and I think about this, and it's affected our lives, this is a positive thing. Human stupidity is infinite, so there's always stupid people who walk into your life and try to make your life miserable. But in general, I think this permeates and affects the world in some ways. I mean, some people also argue that when you change yourself, or where there is change, where there's some deep-rooted change, then you actually affect the whole of mankind. We don't know if this is really true or not, but it's a nice idea at least.
I think it must affect You know, it's like throwing a little drop of water into the sea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might be very little,
Yeah,
but
we are part of this stream.
right.
We are. It's a fact. I can see that we are.
Yeah.
We have the same pains. We have the same happinesses. We have the same. Everything is the same. Up and down a little bit. I am you. This is for me. This is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just blow. It's a fact. I know. We are the same. And
Yeah, but people
But I'm like
to
Reza,
believe that they are
I'm an
different
optimist
from each
as well.
other. We want to
Sorry,
believe
one
that
second.
Sorry.
Just one at a time because of the.
I'm an optimist. I'm very. All the things you said, I'm very,
Mhm.
very similar.
Mhm.
I do feel there is. I'm hoping as well that there's thousands and thousands of people out there.
One must know that about knowledge. We are knowledge. We consider knowledge as it sits somewhere there, and we're using it anytime we want to. But in actuality, there is no knowledge out there. We are knowledge. We are the expression of our knowledge. It's not separate from us. And as long as psychological knowledge, because mechanical scientific knowledge is a good thing to have. But psychologically, we are that. I am my nation.
See, that
I
seems
am my
very
country.
obvious to me.
To you, it's
No, I think it
obvious.
seems well, very.
Not for people.
Knowledge that it's not out there. People know that they think they have knowledge.
Yeah, they think they have knowledge.
Yeah, well, it's not out there. It's in
No,
there.
knowledge, I mean, sitting there, it's like it's somewhere storage, and every time when I feel convenient, I use it. As a Greek, I have my Greek knowledge.
I don't think people think like that.
I think they think like
I
that.
don't think that. I think they don't realise what knowledge really is.
Of course, they don't realize knowledge, because that's
They
why I
never,
say
they never ask the question.
it's like they never ask. That's
Never ask
exactly
the
my
question.
point, because they don't wonder about it.
Well,
There's a-
the self, the psychological self, is built from knowledge.
Of course, that's why you are knowledge. That's why you produce that, whatever you produce. So, if you understand that you are the division, people say we're going to be breaches of communication.
But you see a lot of people, like he said, he gives a lot of books to people and so on and so
No,
forth.
they don't touch.
And it just doesn't, it just goes over their head. Even people, some people who've been studying this for 50 years still. And the question is why? And I think the only thing I can think of as a reason is that because the self is so strong, and being open to some of these ideas, it challenges the very existence of the self itself, you know.
Yes.
So the mind just kind of blocks it because that's too
Dangerous.
dangerous and too
Because,
threatening.
Because it's going to change their life fundamentally, and they're going to lose their security.
Yeah.
It's
So they're
about
going to lose their
security,
friends, they're going to
yes.
lose their family. Maybe
Well,
lose
not
their
necessarily.
jobs.
Why? I don't.
Because they know that they.
The fear of death is not the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of what you are losing. Actually.
But wait a minute. If I open my mind and I see that I am a bundle of memories and so on and so forth, and I start moving through life with a quiet mind and just applying my thoughts to where it's supposed to be for, I don't need to necessarily lose my friends. So that's why I don't understand what you're saying there.
Because people think they're going to lose their friends.
Yeah, they think they're going
They
to.
think they're going to
See,
lose their friends.
If you take
Because
a,
we're afraid what others will think about me. So when I say I don't believe
Because,
in God.
for example,
That's it.
because the friendship is made
Yes.
based on images of.
Yeah, we have common interests. We are same country, same, you know. So if I say to Vasus one day, you know, I don't believe in God, I might lose Vasus as a friend. Or Vasus will distance himself from me.
Especially with nationalism.
yeah, it's fear.
Everything.
You see. It's fear. You see.
God, not so much
Everything.
nowadays. But if you say all of a sudden, I'm not a Greek. Ooh,
No, I think...
Talking about the change in the world and how we can affect it. Somebody asked Krishnamurti, but sir, I am just one person among millions. How can I, or billions or whatever, and how could one person make a difference in the world? If I change or whatnot, how could that make a difference? You know what he answered? He s-
change and see.
Exactly. He says, you find out.
You see,
Change
we
and
have
find
fear
out.
of the unknown. We have fear of the unknown, but actually it's not fear of the unknown. It's fear of the known. Because what it means, what am I afraid of? Losing what I have actually. Because if I knew if I go to paradise when I go, then I would kill myself. Everybody wants to go to paradise, but nobody wants to die. So what are you afraid for? You are afraid of losing what you have. your wife, your house, your car, everything, your country, your nations. So if you take that away, then you have nothing. That is what we are afraid of. And Krishnamurti comes and takes all that away. It forces you to stand alone.
Naked.
Naked.
Psychologically.
Psychologically, always, of course. So that's why he tells you, do it and you see. But we don't do it. We think, we like the idea of doing it. But actually,
but be careful when you say that we don't do it. But you've done it, or you're doing it, or something like that. Because we have to be careful. Because there is this movement out there. There is this thinking wave that nobody understood K and all this bullshit. Excuse me, and which is purely bullshit. Because he never said that. And I know it's changed my life in a lot of ways. Some of these insights. And what about you guys? Has it affected you in any way? Have you understood some of what he says, and has it affected you in some ways?
No, what am I going to start saying about that?
No,
Massively.
There we go. So there's one person.
I say that it didn't affect us.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what when I say do it and you see, I don't mean it personally.
Yeah.
Some areas, of course, we did it. We didn't even think about it. It's now that we talk, we know about it. Because when you do it, you don't even know it. You do it.
Yeah.
So, yes, it changed our lives dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, every day I get up and I see that.
And do you feel like you understood some or all of what he said?
Not all, but I think...
A good deal, right?
A good deal, if I can say a good deal. What I understood basically is that I'm conditioned. And basically what I understood is that the real value of K's impact in my life is that now I know that when I'm not aware, when I'm distracted, I know it. And then I'm aware. And that awareness brings about insight. Because when you do something mechanically, because you are out of habit, you don't even know it, that you are spreading conflict. But Krishnamurti comes along, and because of K, now I know it sometimes. Right away, when I do something, I know it. And that very awareness puts an end to it. That's the real value of K. If you see that the division of nationalism brings about conflict, puts an end to it.
Okay, so Krishnamurti's change, you've understood some of it, and it's brought some changes for the better in your life. Would you say that? Definitely.
Yes.
Okay,
there
good.
is no conflict in many ways.
Because you see, and what about you, Nicholas?
Well, I think there was a big change in my life as well. A lot of images fall apart,
Yes. Images is
and
conflict.
and okay, I changed how I saw the world. I saw that there was no division anymore. That you and me are the same.
You see,
you might be sure, but I'm told, but fundamentally we're not different.
If you are no longer nationalistic, then you have no reason to fight me. If I'm nationalistic, you just turn your back away from me.
But there was a lot of let's say unpleasant change with the people that I deal every day. For example, no more I go to church, so people get suspicious. What's happened to him? Is he atheist or what's So people change their attitude towards your person. So there's also this kind of change that.
Does that bother you?
At the beginning, it did bother me, but as I saw it, that it was because of me leaving my security, myself,
And some of your beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. But also, isn't it that we also can make one of the part of our conditioning is to make an image of others people's image of us. It's this whole image making machinery, which is image of myself, image of you, your image of me, and your image of yourself, and so on and so forth. So maybe it's not so difficult if you don't make an image of them, which also transforms the relationship, because maybe they expect you to act a certain way because they think that because they have an image of your image of their attitude towards you. But if you're not even playing that game, when you're like just quiet in the moment, they're loving, whatever, then it also changes that relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of like a trap there, which you have to be very careful with, because you see someone, you're aware that someone is egocentric, okay, and you see his actions. He's walking that way, let's say, and you immediately say he's egocentric and has a big ego.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you fall into that trap, that image that you have already created for someone else, and then there is a division. So it's like every step you do, you have to be aware of your separation, that the mind constantly is playing games with yourself, constantly creating images, and it was very difficult for me to come to that point where I said, there's no image, it's my mind playing games with me.
You saw the image making machinery.
Yeah, it was.
Which is a thinking process.
Yeah, it was. It took some time to acknowledge it because it was already there, but
Right, and there's something magical that happens when the mind learns this itself. A person can actually learn in relationship how they make an image. They can be aware of the image making process. The mind itself learns the limitations of thinking and learns where thinking belongs and where it doesn't. And it doesn't enter into where it doesn't belong. And so there's a sense of freedom, and that's, it kind of transforms relationships also, which are based on images, because suddenly you're not participating in that game.
One of the reasons that I discovered that this happened to me is because I used to take the teachings and applied them before I saw them. So I was applying.
That's like a religion.
Yeah, it was like a
Theory.
religion. It was like applying and perceiving before seeing. So there was this gap again, and I had to overcome that gap. And yeah.
Another thing, I had a thing, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me. Actually, gigs can't do a damn thing.
No, I agree.
I can't do anything.
Because
Do you
actually,
understand what I'm trying to say? Gigs is the problem. Gigs is my memories, my thoughts, all my background is gigs. If I have amnesia tomorrow morning, there's no gigging. It's vanished. So I am that. And that is trying to work. It's like trying to wash water with water. You know? So this is why I said a while ago that at the end of the day, the only thing is choiceless awareness, because you can't actually do anything.
and that
What
is
can
the
I
beauty
do?
of it.
I want somebody to tell me, do this. There's nothing
There's
you can
nothing
do.
you can do.
But there's then the act of intelligence, right? Because
Yes.
then intelligence acts.
The intelligence comes into being when the self is not. When the self is not,
Also love and
of
and
course,
intelligence.
also love,
are- yeah.
freedom, all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
actually is one movement.
Right.
It's not a divided movement.
Right.
So when the self, the background is not there, acting in the present, but this is what we do. We meet the present with the knowledge of the past, at least a selective knowledge. And then we modify the present according to our likes or dislikes. And that's not awareness. To be aware of that you are past interfering, that's awareness. And brings about. That's all.
Yeah. It makes me think of these two movements, the movement of thinking and time, and the movement which is beyond time and not of time. I was just reading a quote by Rumi. He says, come out of the field of time and join the field of love. So time, thought versus
Yes.
love, unlimited.
Do you love?
Well, linguistically,
It's very
They-
difficult
they-
for somebody to answer this question, because if I say I love, I say what's he selling us now? You know? Do you love?
Depends what I love my cats. I love my dad. If I
I'm
put it
not
this
asking
way,
if you love your cats.
yeah, I know,
You
but
love-
it's not a question. It's not a question that I believe that someone can answer.
Yeah, I'm very careful with the word love.
Yeah, I couldn't say.
Today,
I can't.
these
I can't
days
say
you have
that.
to be very careful about the
What we mean by love.
love, you know.
Love
I'm looking at
romantic,
Romantic love.
red
because
flowers and
we abuse that word actually.
yeah, it's
We loaded a million prejudice on that word, like the word God. What do you mean by God?
so much image behind that
So
word
much
that
images. So it
it's
lost its
destroyed.
meaning.
Yeah, it's lost.
We have destroyed it. So I think you can live love, and it's very personal. You cannot. I don't know if you can express it.
Well, linguistically, I mean, this is kind of almost a trick question, right?
Yes, it is.
Because when you say, do you love? Okay, if you want to just be casual about not be so stiff on the meanings, then we could say yes or no or whatever.
Yes.
But if you're stiff about the meanings, then you
Who's
say, wait a
love?
minute. No, yeah.
Who's love?
The you itself is of time and thought. So it cannot, by definition, love.
Of course.
When the you is not, love is.
Because
right.
I think the only thing you can say love exists when the self is not.
Right.
I don't know how else to put
That's a good way to put it. And you're not quoting K, by the way, right? That's important.
I'm not giving you bullshit. I don't know. Sorry, it might sound terrible.
But can you repeat what?
I love people.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
It's
What's
it's not
to be
common
sorry
say,
about? Why do you
because
sorry?
people
I don't say.
I love people.
Yeah,
when
I
I
do
would
too.
say you cannot answer this, I don't mean like how you put it now. Of course, we do love people. When I see someone, I do love him. But if that someone, let's say, for some reason he's evil, I mean his deeds are spreading
He's got a problem. He's got a problem. Why I don't have a problem?
He's got a problem. I turn my back away and I leave. But it doesn't mean I hate him. I just see a snake and I don't touch him.
But you know, I in a way I can connect with what you're saying. You know, if I may just give you my impression.
Yeah,
like
good.
earlier, we were talking about pliability and adaptability of a youngster going to a different country, and we said that maybe everybody or different people are different, have different levels of adaptability. Also, with this subject of loving people, I think it's a question of personality. Also, some people are more people.
That could be 100%.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with...
No, it's what you feel. How can you express
No,
it?
when you come to-
All I
Because
can
I've
express-
said this in my life many times that I love people. I've said this many times as well. But of course, there's some people I can't
If
stand.
he comes just punches me on the nose,
Yeah.
what can I do?
But in general,
Do you mean that by being extra... How you say that?
extrovert.
Extrovert or introvert?
I don't know. I mean, these
That is-
categories are kind of
in
silly.
in a public domain, yes, that would be pliable. But
in that sense, I don't love people.
yes, but privately, let's say Kicks my friend, he's always the heart of the party. Everybody loves him. He enters a room, he lights the room because his presence is so enjoyable.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make.
No,
it-
I know, I can see it.
Yeah, when I enter a room, I need time in order to let myself out, because I'm into whatever. But in the personal space, there is no such thing as outer or inter. There is only difficulties, and the one, if it were as a child is abused, he has difficulties to express himself to his wife, children, or whatever. That's totally different. To me, love is, of course, I love life, definitely. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking with you and exploring all these topics. So, but I also see the danger that people carry with them. Like a snake, but the snake, it's a different kind of danger. But psychological danger of being nationalistic or religious division, that's a totally different thing.
It's extremely dangerous. They did a survey recently in the US.
Then one may ask, okay, you're just one person, what are you going to do? It's like all of us were making noise, and I stop. Then the noise is reduced.
Exactly.
That's all you can
Very
do.
good. Very
It's the
well
only
said.
revolution you can do.
What were you going to say that about it?
Oh no, but I wanted to say two things.
States.
One is that in America they did a survey not long ago, about a year ago or so. They found out more than 50% of Americans have racial prejudice. This is really bad. And in Europe is not much better.
1,000 different races.
Yeah, and Europe is not much better.
No,
So
no.
this
I would
thing
say
is
Europe
so
worse.
I think it'd be worse.
Worse.
The US
I think it
It is.
If you see the
It's
US,
worse.
it's like 50 countries.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you go to New York, it's totally different if you go to Kansas.
Yes.
So you say in the US, you have to be very careful what you mean by the US.
that's true.
Even when you say
Where do you live in
you have to be
America?
careful.
California.
California.
Which was a big melting pot. But the other thing I wanted to say earlier, you said what did you say where you are when the self is not, love is.
Yes.
And I said that, wait a minute, I said you didn't quote Krishnamurti, and he says no, I didn't. But it happens that Krishnamurti said the exact same sentence, because some people like to criticize others for, oh, you're just quoting Krishnamurti.
No.
But when you firsthand understand, okay, he says, oh, there's a flower there, you can go explore it. Once you go and find the flower, it's yours and you found it.
Yeah.
And it's firsthand. So, but terminology, our words are limited, so we use the same words.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we're quoting.
When you smell a flower, it's not your smelling. You smell it, I smell it, it's the flower smell.
You know, just for your information, there's this movement, maybe you've seen it, this attitude that in some of these circles that, oh, nobody got it, so nobody can get it, and so on. But to me, this is also a complete result of human laziness, because if you develop the idea that, oh, nobody understood Krishnamurti, then he just becomes irrelevant, and you don't have to pick up the challenges, because some of these are challenges that can be very disturbing, you know.
Yes, some Buddhists say this. They say when the Buddha died, there was hundreds of people who had become enlightened. Krishnamurti died, and on his deathbed he was saying,
Yeah.
nobody's understood me.
But he
was
didn't.
very depressed. And, you know,
He didn't say that. That's the
no,
thing.
I don't find that neither.
I talked to the people who were there,
Yeah.
and he was talking about people around him.
I talked to Scott Forbes,
Yeah.
because I used to go to Brockwood quite regularly. I went there as a guest and as a volunteer, and I spoke to Scott Forbes, and he said, no, he didn't say that to me. I spoke to Zimbalist.
Enlightenment is acknowledge of what is going on. That's it. If you acknowledge what is every second of the day, that's enlightenment.
Why do you say it's not possible or it's difficult to be aware?
Because when you try,
Constant.
there is a center that is trying. Understand?
But it's
But
possible
awareness
to.
is
But
choiceless.
it's possible to move through your day and be aware. I don't want to say constantly, because constant again falls
Yes.
into a whole trap of time and so on.
Exactly.
But to be aware, even when you're really busy.
I mean, even when we sleep, the mind is working.
Of
We
course.
think of things have happened
The
to
brain
us
is working.
during the daytime, and we're evaluating them and seeing them.
When you are not trying, see what happens. When you are not trying, when there is no effort, what takes place?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, when you try to be aware,
No, you said when you're not.
when you are not trying to be aware,
You're not,
what?
you're not aware.
No, let me put it
No,
this
because
way.
you've got to make it clear.
Okay, yeah. When I'm trying to be aware, there's a center that is, I'm aware of this room, okay? But if I turn my awareness into a certain direction, then there is a center that is turning its direction. Understand what I'm saying? When I'm not trying to be aware, that means my thoughts, my center, my memory is quiet. And then I'm aware, really aware of what is going on. Because when the center is in motion, then I'm not aware, the past is in motion. But when
Sorry, I don't see it that way.
how do you see it then? Awareness.
I'm aware, let's say
Really?
now.
I'm aware of
I'm aware.
our conversation.
And then I might realise I'm not aware.
Yes.
That is awareness again.
Yes, of course. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
what Ross is saying with the more.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Simple
I
way.
just say that.
I
Yeah,
see.
sometimes we need to use words in order to until we find the right vocabulary and the words means the same. That's another problem.
Yeah, because the words don't have meanings themselves. We give them
Yeah,
meanings.
we give them
So we have to
meanings.
agree on the meanings. Otherwise,
Yes,
we start
otherwise-
arguing about things.
That's what happens to us.
No, even though I know him for decades now, and
Yeah.
we talk about Krishnamurti regularly,
Yeah.
sometimes we're still using words that we say the same thing in a different way.
Yeah.
So I miss.
But Kay had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was talking to some people from India on Facebook. And I said, you know, some people, they might come to Krishnamurti now, be reading a book, say, from 40 years ago, and then pick up a book that was later in the 80s, and they could get mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
And they jump down my throat. They did.
Well, I think between 40s and 80s, not too much, a little bit. Like he changed his meaning of the word, or the use of the word reality, for example.
Took it out of my mouth.
Yeah, reality.
Took it out of my mouth.
But the stuff prior to 1930 or 33, that was pretty radically different. And he actually said, don't publish those things and don't rely on that. It's very
He's the
interesting.
most practical guy because most people don't understand why they feel he's not practical. He's telling you what you are. So if you see your divisions in you, then you stop in dividing.
So if somebody asks you, is Krishnamurti, what he talks about, is it practical? What would you say?
He's the most practical person I've met in my life. He changed my whole life, Reza.
Yeah.
I was about to become a monk, a Buddhist monk myself. I was about, honest to God, I was about to become a monk. And then through him, I saw that it's a different kind of hierarchy. So either you become a manager in a bank company or whatever, either a manager or a monastery, it's the same thing. It's a movement. So
that's so true. Exactly.